down on them. This was well choreographed, with the president walking out with his family, and then the First Lady and their daughters leaving and then coming back on stage. The Vice President and his family as well. It was interesting, this speech, a little bit of everything. First off, it lasted about 20 minutes or so, started at about 12:40 Central Time, 1:40 Eastern, ended at about 1 o'clock or 2 a.m. Eastern. And the president started off, as you guys talked about, thanking not only his family and the supporters, the sentimental side, but also from there kind of went into stump speech mode. A lot of similar talking points that you heard on stump speeches. To me, it was interesting that he didn't really outline any real policy for his second term. This was more broad. The one thing that he did include was immigration, saying that there will be immigration reform. As we know, there wasn't any real major oversweeping legislation in his first term. And when you look at the numbers, it will be one of the storylines of this election is how much the president won the Hispanic and Latino vote, not only across the country, but also in Florida and in South Florida. And he ended it with the Affordable Care Act, talking about that 8 or 9-year-old girl in Ohio who we had just heard, and that was a subtle little jab saying that the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which he has embraced, is not going anywhere. And then from there, it was talks about hope over the next couple of years that we are, quote, not red states or blue states, and how the country will come together. Craig and Belkis, if you're taking my camera, I will leave you with a live picture here as the president and the vice president and their families walk off the stage here at 1:05 Central Time in the morning. And tomorrow will be we'll start basically the last couple of months of his first term, and then come January, it'll be the next 4 years of his last term. Right, Belkis?
We'll hang with these pictures because I guess the president wanted to bask in the moment with the crowds a little bit longer, and who could blame him? I guess the thing we'll look ahead now, once we head into tomorrow, is what the second term, what the administration may look like. There have been some rumblings that Secretary Clinton might not want to stay on. It's an exhausting job. She's one of the most traveled secretaries of state we've ever had. Although recently I think I saw, Blake, and maybe you know this better than I, that she might want to stay on a little longer than we had been led to believe. So typically in a second term there are cabinet shakeups. Those happen.
Well, not only are you talking about cabinet shakeups, but also think about the Supreme Court. Because over the next 4 years, you can't predict who is going to step aside, but it's believed that there could be as many as 2 or 3 justices going forward that could come down. And as we saw with the Affordable Care Act, the Supreme Court matters, and the composition of the Supreme Court matters. And what cabinet shakeups might come in the next couple weeks for the next 4 years, we don't know. We also don't know what the Supreme Court makeup will look like, but that also could be one of the big themes going forward over the next few years of the president's last term is how that ends up shaking up as well. Craig?
And that was certainly something that the president's campaign tried to make an issue, remind supporters that think big picture in terms of the next president will have probably a couple of spots in the Supreme Court, so keep that in mind. I think they were trying to use it, both sides were to try to energize their base to get them to show up at the polls, because as Blake mentions, Supreme Court nominees and justices tend to be there for a very long time and in effect